Okay, so let me tell you how I really lost 70 pounds in 9 months. And I got my notes right here, so let's get into it. All right, so the first thing I had to do was acknowledge that weight wasn't my problem. My problem was all in my head. And when you hear people talk about you have to get your mindset right before you lose weight, it's absolutely true. I was in such a bad headspace, and the only thing that I could do was work out, try to eat right, and I was so focused on the scale. But weight was not my problem. It was all up here. And so I had to acknowledge that weight wasn't my problem. You gotta figure something else out. The next thing that I did was I hired a therapist. Now, therapy wasn't something that I've been used to. People in my family don't go to therapy. But again, I had to acknowledge there are things that are going on in my life that I really need, just to talk to someone about. And I hired a therapist, local therapist. We started our sessions, and I would just talk to her about life, things that were going on at home, things that were going on at work, things that were going on with family members. And it was just so refreshing to be able to talk to someone and process how I was feeling in the moment. And she earned every penny. One of the first things that she actually told me, I remember, I think it was our second session, and we were talking, and I had gone on about 5 minutes, and I was telling her all these crazy things that were happening in my life and things that were going on at work and home, and keeping the house clean, and I got a 13-year-old and things like that. And after this 5-minute rant session, she says to me, "You need to rehire the house cleaners. You don't have time to clean your house." And I'm like, "Lady, I just poured out my heart and soul to you, and the only thing that you got from that is I don't have time to clean my house." But I decided to trust her. I was like, she's a professional. I'm going to go back and rehire the house cleaners so I can have a clean house and not worry about it. And let me tell you, the first time that the cleaners came back and cleaned the house, I was like, oh my God, it was like a weight lifted off of my shoulders. It was like this aha moment in my head. And from then on, it was like kind of like a mental renewal for me, and that just really kind of kickstarted it. But that therapist earned every penny of her fees, hands down. The next thing that I did was look for a new church home. My family had relocated out of state for about 10 years. We relocated back, and I went right back to the same church that we were members of before we left. But in that 10 years that we were gone, that church had changed so much. Things had happened in the church, half the church had left, and it just did not have the same vibe. It didn't have the same spiritual feel, and I just was not being spiritually fed there anymore. But I went back and I stayed there because I was comfortable. But it wasn't the same. And I ended up starting to go less and less, and then not at all. And so now here I am, not being spiritually fed, and I could tell. And so I decided, okay, it's time to find a new church home. There was a church that had been built when we moved back here. It was near our house. And so I decided to go there one day, check them out, see what they were about. And I went, and there was a minister that preached that service. The pastor was out of town, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the atmosphere. I enjoyed the people. It was very diverse congregation. I enjoyed the word that day. And again, this was from a minister. And so I decided to go back the following week, and I went back the following week, and the pastor was there, and the pastor gave the word. I went out into the parking lot, pulled out my phone, and I joined the church in that moment. And I've been a member ever since. I've joined the ministry and actively involved in the church. And that was what I needed for my spiritual growth. I knew I was missing that. And when I found it, I knew that I had found it. So the next thing I did was I found a bariatric surgery center to connect with here in my new state. I had bariatric surgery in my old state in 2014, and I didn't follow up with post-op care, going to see the surgeon like I should have, going to the group sessions like I should have. And so I decided to connect with the local surgical center here in the new state. One of the reasons why I did that was because I was having horrible acid reflux. I developed that a couple of years after having VSG surgery. If you know anything about VSG surgery, you know that is one of the risk or complications associated with the surgery is you could develop acid reflux. I had a pretty bad case of it, but I did not want revision. One of the ways that they fix acid reflux in sleeve patients is they revise them to gastric bypass. I did not want to have another surgery, so I just kind of dealt with it. And so I decided, okay, enough's enough. Go connect with the local bariatric surgery center and see what they can do about the acid reflux. So I went in, and the first thing I said to her was, I don't want to have another surgery. So help me with this acid reflux, but I don't want to have another surgery. And what she said to me was, well, if you lost the weight, then your excess weight, then your acid reflux will resolve itself. And I was like, that's a concept. And so she connected me with the nutritionist who was there in the surgical center. Thank goodness for excellent insurance, because my insurance covers the visits to the bariatric center still. And this again, almost 10 years post-op. They cover the nutritionist almost 10 years post-op. So I was able to see the nutritionist. I was seeing the nutritionist every other week. So I would have 1 week where I would see the nutritionist, and the next week where I would see the therapist. Next week I see the nutritionist and it was great. It was a great setup. So the next thing that I did, the day after I saw the bariatric surgeon and she connected me with the nutritionist, is I committed to the 75 hard challenge. Now, the 75 hard challenge is a mental toughness challenge. It is to instill discipline. It's not necessarily a weight loss challenge or physical transformation challenge, but if you follow the challenge correctly and you follow it to the end, you will have a physical transformation at the end of it. You will lose weight. And what the 75 hard challenge entails is working out twice a day. One of the workouts has to be outdoors. You follow a diet, no alcohol and no cheat meals. You read 10 pages of a nonfiction book per day. You take a progress photo every day, and you drink a gallon of water every day. So again, you're following a diet with no cheat meals, no alcohol. You're drinking a gallon of water, and you're working out twice a day. You can't help but to have a physical transformation at the end of that. So I committed to the 75 hard challenge. I did not set a weight loss goal. I did not set a transformation goal. The only goal that I had for the challenge, because again, the premise is that it teaches you discipline. So the only goal that I had for the challenge was to finish it, to get to the end of the 75 days. I actually ended up doing the 75 hard challenge for about 110 days straight through. And so at the end of the original 75 days, I had lost 34 pounds. And again, it's not a weight loss challenge, it's not a physical transformation challenge, but if you follow the challenge the way it's meant to be followed, you can't help but to have a transformation. When I was following the 75 hard challenge, most of my workouts was just walking. Again, I had to work out twice a day. One had to be outdoors. So typically what I would do is in the morning, I would get on the treadmill at home, and then at lunchtime or in the afternoon, I would walk outside. So most of my exercising during the 75 hard challenge was walking. Well, one of the goals that I set for myself once 75 hard was over was that I wanted to get back to running. Back in 2015, 2016, 2017, I was an avid runner. Right after I had VSG, that was one of the ways that I lost additional weight and I kept it off, was I started running. And so I set a goal this time. I wanted to get back to running. And so I started to slow jog and kind of built myself up to running. One of the other things that I also did was incorporated strength training. And so I started 75 hard in May. The original 75 days was up in August. And then in August, I just started replacing some of those workouts, some of those walking workouts with running and strength training. Now, one of the ways that I keep myself motivated to run is that I train for races. And so I decided to sign up for a 10K race, which is 6.2 miles. And I looked up a 10K training plan, and it was a couch to 10K training plan. It was for the course of 10 weeks. I had 10 weeks to train for it. And I just followed the training plan. Every day it told you exactly how many miles to run. I would run those miles. In the off days, I would strength train. And in 10 weeks, I ran my first 10K and finished that. 20 days later, I ran a second 10K and I improved my run time. After that, I started training for an 11-mile race, but I used a half marathon training plan, and a half marathon is 13.1 miles. But I used that training plan to train for an 11-mile race. So in the process of training for the 11-mile race, I ended up training for and running a half marathon. And I trained for that 11-mile race over the course of 18 weeks. And so you can kind of see how I use training to keep me motivated to just continue to run. And so from August to February, when I ran that first half marathon, I had lost an additional 36 pounds. So I lost 34 pounds following the 75 hard challenge and walking twice a day. And then once 75 hard was over, I started running and incorporating strength training. And then over the course of the additional 6 months, I lost an additional 36 pounds. Now, one of the things that I will tell you that I did not do is I did not set a weight loss goal. And I think that that was one of the things that really set me up for success. Because if you remember in the beginning, I said I did not have a weight problem. I had a whole lot of other problems, but weight wasn't one of them. But that was what I was so focused on. I was so focused on the number on the scale that I was ignoring all of the other problems that were truly the problem. Weight was just a symptom of the other problems that I was experiencing. And so I did not set a weight loss goal whatsoever. I got on the scale, but I wasn't getting on the scale every day, twice a day like I had in the past. I would get on the scale once every 2 weeks, and it was just simply because I wanted to document my weight loss experience. But to be quite honest, when I got on the scale, it was like I could care less what that number said. As long as I was running and I was meeting my goals in terms of my training plan and getting closer to running that half marathon, that was all that I wanted. That was all that I focused on. And it just didn't matter what that number on the scale said. And I really do believe that that was really the key to my success and losing the 70 pounds in 9 months, because I just didn't focus on it. I focused on everything else. I focused on the doing and not the result. I just continued to focus on the doing. And I find that I am more motivated and I'm more disciplined to continue to do those things, eat right, work out, and do all the things that I should do to keep the weight off, because I'm not focused on the weight. I'm just simply focused on doing those things that I should be doing. And that is how I lost 70 pounds in 9 months. And so if you're interested in learning more about my weight loss journey, my run experience, I just had a tummy tuck. So if you're interested in plastic surgery after a massive amount of weight loss, I plan to document that experience as well. But if you're interested, click subscribe, click on the notification bell so that you are notified every time I upload a new video. And take the ride with me. I look forward to sharing my experiences with you and answering any questions that you may have. See you in the next video.